The camera slowly rises over a village at dawn. A pale orange sun stretches across fields of cracked, dry earth. The sound of roosters calling mixes with the soft hum of wind. It feels abandoned, forgotten, like the world passed it by. Somewhere beyond the noise of cities and the shadows of skyscrapers, there lies a story that never made it to the headlines. A story of a farmer, one man, whose dream was bigger than his land, bigger than his hunger, bigger than the drought that threatened his life. His name was Arjun. A farmer with nothing but his hands, his soil, and a belief that the earth, if treated with respect, could heal itself. We see close-up shots of parched soil, broken plows, and children drinking from clay cups half filled with murky water. For years, Arjun fought against nature's cruelty. Chemical fertilizers promised miracles but left the soil weaker. Pesticides wiped out pests but poisoned the streams. The land gave less, the people ate less, and hope became a stranger in this village. Every season, he thought of quitting. Every harvest, he wondered if the earth had finally given up on him. Cut to a shot of Arjun at night, sitting by a lantern, flipping through a torn notebook. But one night, under a single flickering lamp, Arjun discovered something forgotten: natural farming. The old ways. Farming without chemicals, farming with life instead of against it. Compost, green manure, crop rotation, water conservation. Ancient wisdom reborn in modern times. People laughed. They said, natural farming cannot feed a family, let alone a village. They told him he was crazy. That he was gambling with starvation. But Arjun didn't listen. He believed the soil could speak again. He believed seeds, given freedom, could grow stronger than ever. He believed nature was not his enemy, but his only ally. A montage begins, Arjun digging with his bare hands, building compost pits, and planting diverse crops side by side. Season after season, he worked. No pesticides. No chemical fertilizers. Just patience, compost, and faith. He fought insects by planting marigolds, fought drought with rainwater harvesting, fought doubt with silence. The first harvest was small. Barely enough to feed his own family. But it was different. The vegetables were vibrant, the soil softer, the taste richer. Something had shifted. The land was waking up. Cut to villagers shaking their heads, laughing, whispering behind his back. Yet, while Arjun saw hope, his neighbors saw foolishness. They mocked him. We will harvest wealth, you will harvest weeds. And in truth, his yields were less than theirs, at first. They sold their crops quickly, earned their money, and Arjun stood with his small baskets of organic produce, waiting, hoping someone would notice. Long pause, soft music fades into silence. But then, someone did. Cut to a local health worker holding one of Arjun's vegetables. A child eating and smiling. A mother noticed her children were healthier after eating his vegetables. A doctor observed fewer stomach issues in families who bought from him. Slowly, whispers turned to curiosity. Curiosity turned to demand. And for the first time in years, Arjun sold out. His small baskets were empty by noon. Not because he had grown more, but because he had grown better. Wide shots of fields slowly turning green, neighbors approaching Arjun's farm. His experiment became a movement. Farmers who once mocked him now visited his fields in secret, touching the soil, tasting the vegetables, asking him, "How did you do this?" He taught them. Patiently. Freely. Not for money, but for survival. Because he knew, his fight was never about one family, but about a future. Slow-motion shots of Arjun walking onto a stage, a humble man in worn clothes, receiving a golden plaque under bright lights. And then, the world noticed. The Natural Farming Best Inspire Award was his. For transforming not just his land, but his entire community. For proving that farming could be sustainable, profitable, and dignified. For showing that hope could grow again. Arjun's story is not just his. It belongs to anyone who believes in the power of nature. Anyone who believes that survival is more than struggle, it is inspiration. If this story touched you, subscribe to our channel. Because we tell the stories of hidden heroes the world needs to remember. And tell me in the comments, if you were in Arjun's place, would you risk everything to try natural farming? Or have you already tried it? Share your experience below. This is more than farming. This is survival. This is inspiration. The camera sweeps across green fields spreading like waves of rebirth. Farmers walked shoulder to shoulder behind Arjun, notebooks in their hands, their eyes glowing with new curiosity. Arjun's fields had become a living classroom. Every leaf, every insect, every seed was a teacher. The same neighbors who once mocked him now stood silent, humbled, realizing that beneath their feet, the soil had been waiting to speak all along. He did not charge fees. He did not demand loyalty. He simply opened his gates, invited them in, and said, "This land taught me. Now let it teach you too." Close-up of children running barefoot through rows of vegetables, their laughter echoing across the valley. The change was not only in the soil. It was in the children. They carried baskets heavier than their shoulders, their faces smeared with mud but bright with health. They tasted tomatoes so sweet they swore it was fruit, cucumbers so crisp they snapped like glass. To them, this was not just food. This was life returning. Doctors in the nearby clinic noticed a drop in stomach illnesses. Elders felt stronger, less fatigued. The silent disease of chemicals was retreating. The camera shifts to glossy chemical fertilizer bags being unloaded from trucks, banners advertising high yield guaranteed. But where hope grew, so did opposition. Local suppliers of chemical fertilizers saw their sales shrinking. For them, Arjun was not a hero. He was a threat. They visited the village, promising miracles in shiny packets. They warned, natural farming cannot last. The soil will collapse. Your yields will vanish. Some farmers, frightened by old debts, returned to chemicals. Others stood torn between fear and faith. Rain falls hard. The camera zooms into Arjun's face as he kneels in the mud, crops flattened by storms. And then came the storm. Rains that lasted weeks, drowning his crops, breaking his spirit. As he watched water swallow the fields, the voices of his critics returned. "We told you. You gambled with survival. You were wrong." He almost believed them. He almost gave up. Music fades into silence, then a faint heartbeat sound begins. The storm clears. A camera pans slowly across the ruined fields, yet in one corner, green shoots survive. But nature had one more lesson. Among the drowned crops, a small patch of land, where he had rotated legumes and spread compost, remained alive. While chemicals washed away, natural soil held its strength. In that moment, Arjun understood. Natural farming was not fragile, it was resilient. It did not promise instant riches. It promised survival. Farmers gather around the surviving patch. Murmurs spread through the village. What survived was proof, undeniable proof. Proof that farming with life could endure what chemicals could not. And for the first time, the whispers turned into conviction. Together, they began to shift. One farmer, then 5, then 10. Soon, entire families abandoned the shiny promises of fertilizers and returned to the wisdom of nature. Montage, workshops under trees, seeds being shared, compost pits multiplying, villagers chanting songs of harvest. What began as a lonely experiment became a movement. Arjun's village transformed into a hub of natural farming. Visitors came from other towns. Researchers documented the miracle. Journalists scribbled headlines, "A forgotten farmer brings soil back to life." He was no longer mocked. He was no longer ignored. He was leading a revolution, one compost heap, one seed, one harvest at a time. Bright lights. An auditorium filled with people. Arjun, nervous, sits among polished suits and dignitaries. And then, the call came. The Natural Farming Best Inspire Award. A recognition not only of his courage but of a truth larger than him, that when you farm with nature, you farm for eternity. He walked to the stage barefoot, the same hands that once trembled now lifted a golden plaque. He bowed, not for himself, but for the soil that had given him back his dignity. The camera slows. Arjun looks at the plaque, then at photos of his children, then back at the soil. For Arjun, the award was not wealth. It was not fame. It was proof that his suffering had meaning. That his story mattered. That a single farmer, once mocked and forgotten, could inspire the world. The screen fades to villagers working happily, children running, harvests being carried on bullock carts. Arjun's story is not just about farming. It's about faith in the unseen, courage in the face of laughter, and resilience in the shadow of storms. But now I ask you, if you had the chance to risk everything for something you believed in, would you take it? If you've ever tried natural farming, or even dreamed about it, Share your story in the comments. Your voice might inspire someone else, just as Arjun inspired a village. And if you believe more stories like this deserve to be told, subscribe to our channel. Together, we can keep the soil of hope alive. The auditorium fades, the golden lights dim, and the camera follows Arjun as he walks back to his village. The plaque, still shining, is tucked under his arm, but his eyes are not on the prize, they are fixed on the horizon. The world had applauded him. The award was his. Yet, as he stepped off that stage, Arjun realized his journey was not ending. It was only beginning. Because true farming, true survival, was never about applause. It was about legacy. Arjun placed the award gently in his home, then walked into the fields at dawn. His fields had become more than land. They had become the heartbeat of an entire movement. His story spread like fire in dry grass. Villages beyond his own began calling him. Universities invited him to lecture. Policymakers took notes. What was once a whisper in a forgotten village was now a movement echoing across the nation. But Arjun never wore a suit. Never stood behind a polished podium. He spoke as he always had, in mud-stained clothes, with soil under his fingernails, with truth in his voice. The men who once laughed at him now called him teacher. The women who once whispered in doubt now stood beside his wife, planting seeds with pride. Even the children, once sick and silent, now ran freely, their laughter a hymn louder than any applause. And Arjun forgave them. Because he knew, the enemy was never his neighbors. It was ignorance. And ignorance can only be healed with patience. But the battle was bigger than one village. Bigger than one award. Across the world, soils were dying, rivers choking, farmers drowning in debt. For every Arjun, there were thousands still trapped, believing chemicals were their only hope. This was the battlefield Arjun had truly entered. Not against nature, but against a system that had forgotten her. He taught them a simple truth, that soil is not dead matter, but a living community. That farming is not a factory, but a relationship. That every seed carries not just food, but a promise, that if you care for it, it will care for you. Natural farming was not just about crops. It was about dignity. About giving farmers back their pride, their health, their future. In his quiet moments, Arjun thought not of awards, nor of fame. He thought of his children. Of the land they would inherit. Of the soil he would leave behind, not poisoned, but alive. And he smiled, because he knew his legacy was not the plaque on his wall. It was the life in their hands. And now, his story belongs to us. Because natural farming is not only for villages. It is for cities, for schools, for anyone with the courage to plant one seed, nurture one plot, believe in one small act of renewal. Arjun's fight is humanity's fight. His survival is our survival. And now I turn to you. Yes, you. Watching this screen. If you were in Arjun's place, would you take the risk? Would you trust nature when the world calls you foolish? Or have you already tried natural farming in your own way? Share your experience in the comments. Because stories like yours are the seeds that grow into forests of change. If this story inspired you, subscribe to our channel. Because every subscription is a seed, every view is a drop of rain, every comment a ray of sunlight that keeps these stories alive. This is more than farming. This is survival. This is inspiration.